Welcome to Laguna Woods Stories. We have the story today of C.C. Sloan, a name that I have known for the 8 years I've lived in the village and never met face-to-face before. So glad to meet you.
Thank you.
And learn a little bit more about your history, C.C.
Thank you.
Now, C.C. is not an abbreviation, is it? That's your actual name?
It is. My real name is Celia.
Oh, Celia.
But
okay.
Nobody could pronounce it.
Okay.
And so when I was about 6 months old, somebody just switched it to Cece. And
Okay.
It's been with me ever since.
All right. Okay. Now, where did you begin life's journey?
I am a Brooklyn girl,
Ah.
born and bred for my formidable years in Brooklyn, New York.
All right. And you have been here in Laguna Woods Village for several years now.
Yes, it's actually 21 or 2 years, I think, that I've been here.
Wow.
I came as a kid. You know.
Yeah, of course. Didn't we all? And you have a family?
I do. I have a couple of grandsons and a son and daughter-in-law and a great-grandson.
And your husband moved here with you and has preceded you?
He did, yeah.
So now you've lived in the East first half or so of your life or more.
Yes, that's true.
Tell us about some of the things you did there. I hear you were a publisher at one point.
An art magazine. But before the art magazine, I lived in a town, actually it was a city of about 90,000, and we formed a newspaper.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And we formed that newspaper around the beginning of the 70s during the Vietnam War, and we wanted to have a voice.
Okay.
And this was something we decided to do. We got an IBM Selectric and typed the whole paper out, bought a couple of brayers and rolled on handmade headlines.
All right.
But the printer did all the rest. Yeah.
I remember IBM Selectrics. I had one of those ones, correcting things. That's great. My spy tells me also that among your other activities, you were once part of a vocal quartet. You're a singer.
No, that is a little off. I managed
a
vocal quartet,
along
with other musicians too. I had a little gig called C.C. Sloan Arts Management, and so there were a couple of things that I managed. And but my quartet was one that we actually got CDs made, and we were played on the local radio stations. And I got them gigs all over the country.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And what kind of music did you specialize in?
That particular quartet performed what's called Sephardic music, and that's a combination of, it's called Ladino. It's partially Spanish, and the rest is Hebrew. And the combination together makes this beautiful sounding lyrics. But the artistic director of the group, she did all the arrangements.
All right.
And there were 34 musical instruments that were played during a concert. Yeah.
And the singers, too, right?
Oh, yeah. Four vocalists as well. 2 men, 2 women.
And so would this have been ancient music, or?
It is considered like ancient music.
Okay. Kind of a modern rendition of...
Yeah, the instruments there were instruments called the oud and the bambek, and they were based on early instruments. So they weren't called ancient, but they were called early musical instruments.
Okay.
And then there were a couple of different horns, and we even had a Spanish, I can't think of that name of that interest, but anyway, yeah, and that's a flute and recorders, several recorders.
And how did you happen to get involved in that kind of music?
In my younger days, I got involved in everything. I was one of these people who recognized talent. Mm-hmm. And I also recognized my ability to promote talent.
Okay.
And so I think I had 2 of those musicians perform at a party.
Ah.
And the audience in my party liked them so much that I said, how about if I become your manager? Oh. And they said, that would be great.
Okay, so you managed the recording of
I
these
managed went to our flagship FM station, which is in Boston called WGBH, and they loved the music, and they played it every winter. You know, and so we did the recordings ourselves. You know, we went to a recording studio, but and I have some. I should have brought them with me, but anyway. So that was that, and I did them for a 5-year contract.
Okay. And these are still available online somehow, or?
Yeah, I think you can get them online, sure.
Oh,
yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And then from managing that group, I managed a ballet theater company in Boston. Uh-huh. And before that, I was always getting people gigs, as I said. I recognized talent. I felt people should hear that. I should share what I know. And that became my idea, basically producing. So I would call myself a producer of events and stuff. Yeah, but, you know, I look for the talent first.
Okay. So you managed, or you were involved with an art gallery at one point?
Art newspaper, magazine.
Art newspaper, okay.
Yeah, that's the publishing part, the art magazine. We formed the first, after the little newspaper that I published called the Newton Times was wiped out by a large company that came in and grabbed all of our advertisements. Ooh. So if you know anything about publishing, ads come to you because of readership.
Right.
How much readership you have. Well, the competitive newspaper had enough to print thousands and distribute them freely all over the city of Newton.
Okay.
And so we lost our bank ad, we lost all of our ads, and called it a day. Yeah.
Well, it's newspaper publishing is a very precarious kind of business at best, and with cutthroat competition, it's close to impossible.
That's exactly what happened. So then people came to me and asked if I would like to work on an art magazine and help get it published. And I said, have you started it? No. I said, well, let's do it right away. Let's get going with it before anybody else gets the idea.
Sounds like you were kind of fearless in starting things like this.
Well, you know, we never thought anybody was going to take over our place in our city with another newspaper, because we covered everything. We covered the elections. We covered everything. And if you know anything about small-town newspapering, you can't get to endorse candidates unless you pay taxes. So we did all that. We wanted our readers to have information.
I understand that you have been, and to some extent still are, involved in an arts program at East Coast College.
That's right.
Tell me about that.
Well, I was up to COVID, up until last year.
Up until COVID, yeah.
That is a program that was an offshoot of the magazine, the art magazine, which was called Art New England, and it covered the 6 New England states. And so we thought, well, since we're a magazine, we can advertise any other thing we do. So we decided to do workshops and bring art teachers or faculty up, and it took place at Bennington College in Bennington, Vermont.
Of course.
For 40 years.
Wow.
I ran that program for 40 years. Just a 3-week program, but met thousands of artists who came through to take courses from us. Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
It was great. It was great. It was great.
Tell me about Shakespeare and Modern Culture Society.
Yes. Well, Shakespeare is universal, of course. And I got involved in Shakespeare before I started doing programs here in Laguna Woods, or as far back as Leisure World, I was doing programs. I was also designing courses at UCI in their extension program.
Oh, yeah.
But it was emeritus programs, yeah. And I had some great people to do Shakespeare, courses. So then friends of mine started getting on my back and saying, look, why don't you conduct whatever you do at UCI for us here in Laguna Woods so we don't have to travel to... And so the first club that I formed in 2005 here in Laguna Woods was the Shakespeare Society.
Okay. And so you have been here for a number of years, and you have started and still involved, I think, with a number of clubs here. I remember you early on from the Discovering Documentary Film Club. Is that still continuing?
I just came from recreation and renewed my monthly contract with them.
All right.
Yeah. So we will start in September with our first documentary film.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, because my background is so much in the arts and how I value that, I decided that I would leave history and to the history people, and I would leave politics and science to others, and just do documentary films that are in some way concerned with the arts. So that's dance, architecture, design, music.
So this isn't documentaries about undersea biology or anything like that.
No.
It's all related to your interest in the arts.
It's all about art forms.
Okay. And so you meet monthly, is it? Or
we meet monthly.
And if a person was interested in getting more information, you could find that where?
Well, normally I have a list. So, in fact, this morning I was corresponding with my members. And I always make an announcement in the Laguna Woods Globe a few weeks before the class.
Okay.
And if somebody new wants to join, I ask them to please call me and I'll set it up.
Okay.
We're always welcoming new people.
Very good. I am in my notes here that you've been involved in something called the UN Women's
That's right.
or group. Fill me in on that.
Okay, it started with my being on the East Coast back in 2002 or 3 for the summer. And I kept seeing this notices about a program, and it was called Unifem, or Unifem Feminart.
Okay.
And I just ran into somebody and said, what's a Feminart thing? And she said, well, it's basically UN Women. And I came back home here and called Washington, D.C., and I said, what does it take for me to start a program here of UN Women?
That's what you do. You start things.
Exactly. And they gave me all the instructions, and I celebrated 10 years of being the leader of that program. And I still do celebrate International Women's Day every year.
Is this a group that's ongoing?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the particular part of it, International Women's Day, always is a performance and a history of women. In 2020, beginning of 2020, before COVID, we talked about when women got the right to vote and who were the women that supported the right to vote. And we brought that up to date. And then we celebrate international women because that's what UN is, women all over. I'm very proud of that.
And once again, how can people who might be interested, women who might be interested, get information about that?
Again, the same thing is recommended. You know, people refer me to names of people women who would like to be involved, and then they attend that International Women's Day. International Women's Month is March. The whole month of March is Women's Month, and the particular day of March 8th is International Women's Day universally. And so people come to that event and find out about belonging and join and help me out and stuff like that.
Now you have been interested in issues of women's justice long before the Me Too movement and some of that. What are you doing, or what are you involved with in that whole area?
Well, mostly making women aware. Women to be made aware of their rights. And, you know, for a while I used to describe myself as a feminist, but that seemed a little too hard line. So I call myself an equalitarian.
Okay.
That I respect everything men do in terms of their growth, but I need them to pay more attention to respect what women can do as equally well. And also, you know, I'm a fighter for women's salaries to be more equal to men. And so mostly at this point, because I live in Laguna Woods, which are senior women,
Right.
I'm trying to locate more and more schools that will have programs in Orange County for young women to pursue more about women's rights and find out. So I contact teachers in different schools.
Schools at what level?
High school.
Oh, okay. And what do you find in contacting the high schools generally?
I think that they're all receptive, you know, but they're very busy. Kids have homework, you know, and other things. A lot of the women work part-time. Some are artists and want to be in their studios. So it's not an easy thing. It's not, definitely not an easy thing, because they're what I, you know, my greatest hope is that their parents, their mothers, are making them aware of that they can try to be anything, that they should apply to anything they feel they want to apply to. If you have the skills and the knowledge and the education, you should, as a woman, be able to get the same kind of jobs that a man gets. And, you know, more women are entering college every year than men.
Yes, by a big margin these days. I think it's almost 2 to 1, women over men. As women, as a retired college professor, I'm aware that women do better at every level of school, from kindergarten through graduate school, than men do. Because women are superior at verbal skills, which are very important in the academic world.
This is so true, and I'm more of a future person than a history person. But if you go back to my generation, you were told not to be smarter than the boys, because then they
If you want to be asked for a date or something like that.
Just keep your smartness to yourself. Don't be brilliant.
Sad, but probably true. You've been involved with a French feminist and something about Declaration of the Rights of Women. Does that ring a bell?
Yes. And I would thank Lucy Parker on that as well.
Yes.
But
Lucy was my spy to give me some ideas of what to ask you.
yes, I had discovered this declaration, the first Declaration of Human Rights for women. I discovered it online. And I called my friend Lucy and said, can we take this Declaration of Human Rights by Olympe de Gouges and turn it into a one-woman show?
Ah.
And Lucy's editing and writing made this show happen. And we had a major French dinner and performance of it. And that was in 2008 or 10. I can't remember exactly. And we just did it again. Wow. Yeah, we brought it back to life again. I directed it on Zoom.
Well, Lucy is a good friend of both of us, apparently.
Yes.
And she is one of the very active people in the video club, and I know her through that, does public relations for the video club, and she told me I need to interview you. So I trusted her.
Well, she's a wonderful editor, a wonderful writer, and a wonderful editor.
And a wonderful friend, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
She's the best.
I think we've sketched a little of your past and a little of what you're doing here in the village. I'm sure there's more. Well, what do you see around the corner? What's coming up next for you?
Well, I just relocated or reclaimed my old positions with the South Coast Repertory Theater, since I love theater. So I've been getting tickets once a month for a group of 30 or 40 people.
Really?
Yeah.
So you...
There are some nights I believe we keep the South Coast Rep open that night. Our group takes up a good part of the theater.
Wonderful.
Also, I work with the Los Angeles Opera.
Really?
And work with them. We do bus trips up there that I arrange.
And so you make these events, you promote them here in the village,
Yeah.
and take groups.
And I call them my off-campus events.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
All right.
And then just arranging for a September trip to the Utah Shakespeare Festival, where I have taken busloads of people for over 8 years. Last one was 2019. And so that's my joy. That's my philosophy. That's my life. And I'm so fortunate to have, wonderful people here, mostly a lot of women who also miss having culture. And so I help to provide a little of that. And there are wonderful clubs here. Mine is just specifically about art forms of, whatever.
How has the year and a quarter that we have sort of been on hiatus affected the various art venues, art scenes? Are they all surviving? Art galleries?
They're little
concerts?
by little opening. Full seasons starting September are not complete in a lot of places. Some will start instead of September, they'll start in October, maybe, delay a little bit. But everybody's working on it. I have made contacts.
Any casualties that you're aware of?
So far, not in our area. I have not seen any casualties.
Because a lot of these arts efforts run by a shoestring, so that's remarkable.
Yeah. We do need to support our arts more.
I understand you're still a bicoastal person. You spend part of your years in the east, so you're off.
That's true, yes.
For part of the summer, what are you going to be doing in the immediate future?
Well, for 40 years, I've done the Berkshires in western Massachusetts because it is full of culture. It's a home of Tanglewood, Boston Symphony Orchestra summer home.
Oh, Tanglewood.
But this year, I'm trying upstate Hudson River Valley. And there's a Shakespeare Festival there, and it's right next to where I'm going. Is next to a place called Bard College. Hasn't really got anything to do with Shakespeare, but it is called Bard College. And so I'll be cooking up some new ideas that I'm learning from back east, and hopefully bring them forward with me here, and also have some enjoyment, of some new things. Upstate New York has always been of interest to me.
Right.
So I think, it'll be great. With an occasional drive over to the state line into Massachusetts to the Berkshires for a day or two. Can't not do that.
Wonderful. Yeah. Wonderful.
And of course, Vermont for 2 weeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was sharing before we started recording that my earliest roots are Vermont. I was born there. And our family moved to the West Coast when I was 5, but I've since lived in Connecticut for a while. So, so a beautiful part of the country to be in, especially in the summertime.
Yeah, New England.
Winter is, I could.
That's why we're all here,
That's
us
why
New
we're here.
Englanders.
That's why we're here.
And if you're, for me, because I was an actress and did stage work, live is always the best. This was live, you and I, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So live is to begin with a freshness.
Face-to-face has power that
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Zoom doesn't, but Zoom was a pretty good
It was a great opportunity.
substitute, and some things you can do almost better on Zoom.
Well, webinars are really fine, yeah. There's one I watch called Theater of the Arts. I don't know if you're on that list.
No.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Really?
Amazing, yeah. It's really amazing. Then I also ran a community theater. We had this guy who was what we used to call audition perfect. But as soon as he got the part, he couldn't play it at all. He was magnificent in auditions.
Oh, wow.
He had that moment or two of 3 lines that he could say magically, and then as soon as he got cast, it was terrible.
Well, I learned a long time ago in working with actors, you give maybe 50 points out of 100 on the acting skill, but the other 50 points, are you going to be able to direct him or her? And will they show up on time? Will they be sober? And the interpersonal issues often defeat. I
Right.
remember going live on a television show one time, in like 2 minutes, the woman that we had auditioned and chosen to MC the show, this is live, and she comes in like 2 minutes, hungover, hair askew, and all that sort of thing. At least she got there by. And so we tried to fix her hair and makeup, and she was drunk. I mean, she was still hungover, and that's more important than can she put two sentences together. Sometimes will she actually show up on time sober?
Yeah. Well, stuff like that was tricky also in the theater group because everybody had full-time jobs.
Yeah.
Either as, parents, women as parents, or working and parents.
Delightful to finally meet you in person and get a chance to catch up with you a little bit as you're kind of actively moving from place to place, starting new things, and especially with your interest in social justice and the arts and all of that. Thanks for being a part of this show today, and thanks for being part of our lives here in the village.
It's a great pleasure to have the opportunities that I have here in the village.
Thank you again.
It's a wonderful place.
C.C. Sloan.